Hey everyone. So in today's video, it's going to be a little bit of a different approach here. I'm going to walk through a sketch that I did. It's about a 20 something minute sketch, so it won't take that long. I just want to go over the fundamentals of how I start sketching, and you can clearly see the type of pencil that I'm using. But really this is about not worrying too much about the paper you draw on or the pencil you have, because at the end of the day it just matters about how you apply the lines and how you let your brain completely, how should I put this, flow. Okay, I think the word flow is probably the best word to use. And what I mean by that is, as an artist, we tend to get in our own heads when we're creating things, and a lot of times details become so prominent that we do it too quickly. So you can see here that while I'm drawing this creature, I'm putting in multiple eyeballs. I think I'm going for another cosmic horror drawing. Creature design, for those of you that are tuning in just for the first time ever seeing me draw, it's cosmic horror themed. I'm going to be doing a worm slash gigantic caterpillar like creature, but you will notice as the time goes on, I'm putting most attention into the face and the head area and less into the limbs and what's going on around it. So if you're drawing along with me, if you're thinking about getting into creature design, or even just want to approach characters in general, a good rule of thumb is pay very, very close attention to the personality that you're going to bring out on your characters and creatures, because that dictates what you're going to put on the rest of the clothing, the armor, the skin, etc. What I mean by that, to dive a little deeper into it, is that personality can come in multiple ways when you're doing creatures. So you can see that as I'm putting in the smaller details right around the mouth and the head and the eyes, okay, that's where the majority of the details are going to be. I want to put emphasis on how scary and merciless those bulging black eyes are, similar to spiders and sharks and squid. And those of you that are fans of Love, Death, and Robots, again, I'm going to mention, I've mentioned this before, my favorite episode so far is Beyond the Aquila Rift, and the spider creature in there is just awesome. But when you look at a spider, you're thinking, man, they don't really care about anything. They just want to eat. They just want to trap food, eat, and hide out. That's pretty much it. So you can see here that I'm loosely putting in details, but it's more of an outline. It's not going into the nitty-gritty and wanting to show off everything, because I could spend 7 to 10 hours on this thing and just go all out and make it a full-blown illustration, and I'm not going to do that, because I want to show the power of how quickly you can get a pretty decent sketch down without worrying too much about needing to put in all of that stuff. Yes, it's great. The little hairs, the wrinkles, the skin, the scars, the exoskeletons, whatever. So the technique that I'm using here is just differentiating between thick to thin lines. And I'm just using a 4B pencil, Faber-Castell. Again, doesn't matter what brand you use. I personally love Faber-Castell. I've been using Faber-Castell for like 20 years now. It goes way back to my industrial design days. And I like the 4B because I can get dark enough with it, but I can also allow very light lines at the same time. It's just like a really, really great mix. So here you can see that I'm still spending some time getting the gesture of the rest of the body out. I'm starting to draw the tail. I'm putting in some maybe sharp appendages in the front here, so I'm drawing that left arm. And then this one is, for the lack of a better word, pretty horrific. I don't know if it lives in the ground. It might live in the ground, might live in the forest, the jungle, whatever. But it's like a combination of a caterpillar, a spider, and who knows what else. Um, right there, I'm just using some good old-fashioned measuring techniques. I want to make sure the perspective is okay. Those two big horn-like, I guess not horn-like, those two big horns, while they're not perfectly parallel to each other, or symmetrical, I should say. That's a better word. I still need to follow the perspective because at this angle of the creature, the head is slightly tilted, so it's not looking at us directly ahead or straight on to us. So now I'm pushing slightly harder to get some good shadows in between the eyeballs, and also showing some skin variations where the teeth are growing out of the mouth, because that's a really gaping mouth. It's pretty demonic, actually, so I just wanted to make sure that it opened up really wide. Yeah, there's the bottom jaw. So you can clearly see now that while I'm putting in more shading and details around that mouth, the values that I'm going to be adding around the head, not on the head itself, but around the head, like the neck and maybe some of the chest area, it's going to be lighter. So what that means is I want to make sure that the pressure, I'm not pushing too hard, because any dark lines that are going to be happening around the head, like around the other parts of the body, they're going to need to be strategically placed, because I need to show off that specific thing. So I'm putting in some values now. My rule of thumb, and it's just a technique that I developed over the years, whenever you shade, and you saw me tilt my pencil like that, if you do it a minimum of 3 different directions, so you can, I advise you to physically turn your sketch pad so that you can do that. The way I have my camera set up now, I could only tilt the sketchbook so far, or else it would actually hit the stand. So I'm going to need to figure out a better setup. But I implore you to turn the sketchbook and not tilt your hand. The reason I say that is because the position that my hand is in right this second, you can see, that's the most comfortable angle that I sketch at. So I want to make sure that I maintain that angle, even if I need to hit the values at another angle on the drawing. So I just turn the page where I can still draw at that angle with my arm, if that makes sense. Okay, so you can see that I'm starting to darken some more areas around the head. And there's going to be a little bit here where I zoom in on the head, so you can actually see some of the details. Again, like when you zoom in like this, you can see it's really raw looking. And I'm going with one direction now, and I'm going to slightly shift my sketchbook, shift my hand position, and then I'm just going to hit it at a different angle. So look at the coating going over the original coating. You can see that every time that you make a new pass, it fills up the grain of the paper. Now, if you're having a very, very gritty, grainy paper, you're going to have to do it more. It's also really important, you can see here that I'm keeping a very sharp pencil. I'm using black Prismacolor now. Black Prismacolor offers another really awesome opportunity for texture that graphite does not. I like combining these two specifically because I get asked so many times, how do I keep my drawings clean when there's no smudge marks? And the answer is, 1, I keep my hand off of the drawing. 2, the graphite that I put down, I make sure that I put black Prismacolor on top of it, because black Prismacolor is made of wax. When you put a nice coating of wax on top of graphite, the graphite does not move anymore. The coating of the wax keeps it there. So then you don't have to spray it with fixative. And while fixative is great, it's also super annoying, because when it's down, it's down. So I personally like keeping fixative for charcoal drawings or something so dark and so smudgy that you're forced to use it. Also, it's expensive. Okay, so here I'm putting slightly darker variations on the neck, and then I'm going to put some spiky things on the head. And you notice that I'm keeping the very tips of anything sharp, they're going to be darker. And then you notice that the space in between each one of those sharp stalks are lighter. this is going to help really bring out the contrast on that forehead. And so you've noticed now that we're almost halfway through, I haven't used an eraser. And those of you struggling with perfection, like who who does, name me an artist that is not a perfectionist. I am, everybody is. Okay. And it's our desire to just correct everything, and we want to erase. The problem is that we end up designing by the eraser. We don't design with our mind. We don't design with our, we don't move our pencil correctly. And then it also ruins the paper. That's a whole side tangent I can get into. What I want to do now is just darken up the teeth. And I'll be darken up the teeth, showing some indications of trees in the background without actually drawing too much of the tree. I'm not going to be going into the branches, the leaves, the sticks or whatever. Like, no, just a slight gestural indication. I'm keeping things very, very loose, and even though right this second I'm holding the pencil close to the end, which usually infers I'm going to be putting in details, I'm not gripping the pencil lightly. I'm shifting it back and forth if I need to change the way I grip it. Like more of my details are going into the head now. And also, the other thing that's starting to come to fruition is the fact that that head is closest to us. So you can start to see depth perception. Well, not here. A better term would be atmospheric perspective, not depth perception. Depth perception is, yeah, everybody sees it. So forget that I said that. Let's move on to atmospheric perspective. I love atmospheric perspective. I love putting bits of grain in there and it looks like fog, because I want my creatures to seem like they're living in an environment on my paper and they're coming out of the paper at us. I love the technique. It's just something I've done for years, and it excites me when I draw creatures like that. And I'm starting to put more emphasis on the mouth, putting some shadows in under the tongue and everything. I'm keeping things simple. If you look at this creature, it's not very complicated. It's just a worm with spiky stuff and a big mouth. That's it. The jewels of this creature are just the little minute details, like the spikes on the head. So here you can see I'm doing the shading technique that I was talking about, where I'm trying to hit this in a minimum of 3 different directions. Now, on my 10-hour pencil illustrations that I do, I will probably do 8 to 10 passes minimum at different directions, because it just, time allows that, but also I know that it's going to be much more of a finalized piece. The other thing that I want to stress to you guys is, don't worry too much about perfecting, like I call it the coloring book effect, where when you look at a coloring book, you have to stay inside the lines. But when you're drawing, don't think that you need to do that. Easier said than done. I know, easier said than done, because we want a very clean design, whether it's props, characters, environments, creatures, whatever. But just allow your creature and all of your pencil marks to live on the page. You don't have to ask for permission to draw what you want. All right. And it's your mind telling you that, hey, that's going to be messy. Don't do that. Well, nobody has that authority to tell you to do something wrong with your drawing except you. You apply the marks. So you apply them however you want, and I guarantee you, you're going to start to notice a difference in your drawing for the better. And that is, you're starting to loosen up your designs, you're starting to loosen up your mind, and you're probably going to come up with better shapes. Okay, so what I mentioned earlier about darkening certain areas, those 2 front appendages of super sharp hands, I'm going to make those darker, specifically because they're close to us. And also, you see here, I'm hitting this with a different direction. I don't really care if it's going outside the lines. I'm turning the angle slightly, you can see. And also, I don't really know where the design is going. all I'm doing is applying the values, and I'm basing it off of the gesture that I had under there. I want to keep this uh, easy, relaxed. I want to keep it free flowing. I don't want to think too hard about it. I know that the creature has a slight turn in its body, and the tail is whipping in the background. Okay, so here I'm putting a darker. I'm spending more time on that dark treatment of those spiky hands because those are closest to us. So if we were to stand there in front of this creature, seeing it in the forest, and it's about to eat our face, we know that, well, if it doesn't eat our face yet, it's definitely going to stab us with those things, and they're going to be closest to us. And the other thing is a technique that I like doing, and maybe you guys can try this, is anytime that you have an appendage, a tooth, a claw, spike, scale, something like even the tip of a tail. It's always like a good idea to darken the tips of those things because there's a really cool contrasting effect that happens between whatever sharp part that is and then the surrounding area. And with this creature, since the head is coming at us, but those arms are even closer to us than the hands, those arms are going to get even darker eventually. So then you have some really good depth happening in the drawing, and at the same time, I've been on this for more than 15 minutes now, and it's still loose, but there's also detail at the same time. So it's like picking and choosing where I want to put it, and I'm putting most of it in the face because I want the viewer to connect with that face. All the emotion is in that face. What I mean by emotion, remember when I started talking about personality and focusing on the eyes, it doesn't necessarily mean that a creature has to have facial expressions of anger, sadness, confusion, embarrassment, surprise. Some of them can't. I mean, this thing just looks like it's straight out of another hellish dimension. It can't even think straight. It just kills you, right? So what personality can I bring out of that? Well, that's where stacking multiple eyes against each other, putting some strange wrinkles in by the mouth. You can't really see the teeth, but they're there. They're there. And it doesn't really need teeth, honestly. Putting in the ground plane, again, just trying to keep it as raw as possible. Still haven't used an eraser. I don't care to, and I don't want to. Not unless I'm doing a super long drawing where I have to have all the measurements exact. Okay, so here's the power of doing things in multiple directions. You can see the belly where I did maybe 3 to 4 passes on that stomach, and already all of the gaps in between the pencil strokes are being filled in. And here I'm not spending too much time on the underbelly, like where the shadows are, but I'll be smoothening that out here in a second. All right, so I'm just adding in some shadows by the belly. Here's where the very front appendage gets darker with the black Prismacolor. This is what I'm talking about because this is closest to us. It's the closest thing, that particular arm. And then I'm going to darken its right arm right there, but not as much. So you can see how I faded it up more on the left side than the right. Putting in some more darker treatment over there by those, because you can imagine what this thing might just look like in real life. We don't really see the length of it, and I try to convey that with some gestural lines, kind of just fading in the end of the tail back there. Just use your imagination. It's like reading a book, except with a book, you're not shown anything. With this, you are shown things, but yet you're not. So use your imagination. Maybe there's like a stinger at the end of the tail. I don't know, something crazy. Okay, and now I'm putting in some more textures with the black Prismacolor. Again, just adding wax in those areas. There's going to be some cast shadows and everything. Just to keep things simple, I typically like to light my subject matter from above, just because it's the easiest, and it allows me to quickly get the drawing out without thinking too hard, making sure the light is perfect. Okay, so now I'm just adding in some more values here. the man, I could do a whole lesson on the black Prismacolor and why it's so fun to use. So maybe next time I'll do that. You know, if you guys have made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. And if you like the drawing, just comment. You know, just what did you like about it? Do you want me to do more videos like this? You know, it's funny. Like I have a Google Pixel 6. I got this phone last year, and they kept telling me, "Hey, the camera is actually really good." I've done some live streams with this phone, and I'm not impressed. But when I record video and convert it and then put it in, you know, my video editing software, it comes out pretty decent. So I'm, you know, if you like this method better, give it a like. You know, that would mean a lot. And just comment, tell me what you like, tell me what you'd like me to draw in the future. I got so much stuff I want to show you guys, not just with creatures. I mean, yeah, this like draw sessions is about creature design, which is why I'm doing this. But at the same time, it also is about drawing, just getting good at drawing. Because a lot of the techniques that I show you in here, I've applied to a lot of different subject matter over the years. I used to be an industrial designer. You know, I used to design cars, and then I just kind of jumped into creatures. But I've always liked them anyway. Okay, so back to this. Very, very, very faint indication of environment. I don't want to go all out on the environment. You can see some trees in the back, some are tilting. So maybe this thing lives in a forest, okay? And it's like a forest guardian, which would be kind of cool. The other thing that I'm doing is it's always good to just add a little bit of something around the creature. Yeah, we all do thumbnails, and you know, we don't really have anything around our creature, but put in some ground, put in some cracks, maybe like a little critter scamping by, some trees, brush stuff. It adds a little bit. So now I'm just putting in just a little bit of indication of shadows around the belly. But yeah, so you know, I would love to do more lessons like this. I got a lot more stuff planned, especially with recording my full body, showing you how to stand up and actually draw on a table to have some really good, larger industrial design type drawings, like with vehicles and such, but really loosening the arms up. So with that said, you know, please like and subscribe. I am so thankful for you guys. Seriously, the past 5 months after resurrecting my channel has been an absolute blast. This is so much fun, and I hope you guys had a good Halloween. And you know, please comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.